right, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to let everybody in our audience know that we are suffering through a heat dome in Atlanta, Georgia, although Shantae, who is in Switzerland, is having it best. And we are in a situation where we have to turn the air conditioning off, and so it is hot in here. So anyway, we're going to continue. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This is our ET board meeting. We have 2 guests, and let me just ask, are you guys affected by the heat? They can actually feel the heat, but it's not affecting them. But they're smiling. Okay, all right. So we have a ET board meeting in the middle of the heat dome on the end of July in Atlanta and Switzerland. And I'm going to just open it up to let you guys. I have a couple things I'm interested in asking about, but mostly I just want to hear an update from you guys about what you want to talk about. And then we'll open it up to everybody, all right? Okay, who's going to start first? Okay, so yeah, this gentleman will start first. Oh, he said he didn't say that.
I'm laughing because they said this heat is nothing compared to where they're from.
Oh, really?
I was trying to hold it in.
Don't hold it in, just so to say, because I'm not picking up anything right now. They're sitting there for clear as day, but I'm not picking up anything. So why don't I open it up to whoever wants to start?
I could start. The first thing I was picking up was just the world's geopolitical tumult is just going to keep accelerating, and the idea of a perfect storm will continue to seem like an understatement as more and more seemingly unrelated, some seemingly very related, conflicts just seem to be popping off. It's almost like there's just whatever subtle beef that multiple nations around the world have, they're all just going to come to the surface, and it'll seem like it's just like popcorn. That's the visual I'm getting. It's just like popcorn popping off, but it's just, instead of popcorn kernels, it's nations of the planet Earth, and they're all just having to deal with their own inner issues that have been kind of below the surface for many years, but they're all just going to be bursting to the surface all around the same time, and it just seems like this is a necessary part of what's happening next. This is part of the decay that's going to lead to the new tomorrow, but that we're not at a point where things are going to start getting better yet. We're at a point where things are going to start getting even hotter. I mean, just to use the temperature analogy, it seems appropriate right now, but things are going to keep heating up even further from where we are right now, and they seem a little excited about that. I think they're kind of happy about what's coming on after that. So yeah, mate, you were.
Oh no, I was just saying these guys are a little morbid. Like that's what energy I was getting in my head. I was like, this kind of got some Jigsaw energy, like purposeful, morbid, like being morbid and grotesque with a purpose.
Yeah.
Well, what their purpose may be, I was picking up on that, and. Before you started speaking, I got these visuals, and you said all the words to what I was seeing. So I was seeing, before you said popcorn, it was like, I was like, there's this little mini inner explosions happening. Like I saw a map, and then I just saw like, shoo, shoo, shoo,
Yeah,
going up. And then I saw something almost like it was like crumbling downward. And then I felt their excitement. And then that's when I was like, they're kind of morbid, a little, I can't call them militant, but like this guy here sits real like tall, real straight, shoulders back, kind of silvery, metallic looking person. Not AI, but very metally looking. I don't know how to explain that visual I'm seeing, but like he's the most morbid of them all.
I'm picking that up as well.
Like he's got, and I feel like he also he purposely came down here to fuck with Kamaya, and I I think that's really mean, but I started laughing because he started staring at her, but my eyes were closed. I just saw like the energy thread happening, and I was like, oh my God, don't mess with her today. So this is what's going on here. But I was seeing like little visuals of everything you said. It was like the map was flat. You know how you have the big maps of the world, and then I saw little like mushroom clouds of explosions just moving through it. I don't necessarily believe that means like explosives, like bombs, but like there's going to be an uproar of things all over the place. And then you ended up saying those words, so I was like, cool beans.
It's just chaos. Yeah.
Can I mention something that I'm getting from the one on the left? When you mention metallic, I'm picking up similar aspects, and I'm doubting myself, which is always like a good indication of you should say it, right? Because that's your conscious mind or your ego trying to block perceptions. But this ET on the left looks scarred, and it looks like they have some sort of jaggediness that at first I was picking up, and I was like, maybe it could be like the skin tone, skin texture type of thing. But I'm picking up that ET in particular has been through a lot of injuries, and so the metallic things are patches.
I can see that they kind of look like armor.
Yeah.
But like this,
modifications or like repair of some sort.
or like metal scales covering like the way gills look.
Yeah, something like on the skin. And then when I dial in, there's something kind of like grief that peeks through, the emotion that this subject is bringing through. And I think they brought us victims of their own wars. That's what I'm picking up. But
I think they have a really nuanced understanding of the concept of violence and war. My voice cracked just then. Violence and war, but yeah, but it's the because I get that excitement feeling when they're talking about, or when we were mentioning the stuff about the chaos, the violence. I mean, it's not like an oh boy, death and destruction feeling. It's like, oh boy, this is relating to a step in a macro level event which will lead to a tomorrow for the collective of the planet that would be much brighter than I think the past many decades of which all of us that have been alive for. I mean, I think it's going to be completely different. And I think the energy I'm getting from them is exclusion will start to fade away. And I think that really matches because our planet is pretty much the North Korea of the solar system and the galaxy. Pretty much, we are excluded. Our every aspect of the advanced space programs is hidden from us. Every aspect of even very blatant UFO reports is denied, and none of it is attacked in sort of any sort of intellectual sense. So that level of exclusion will break down as this popcorn event of chaos just fades to the next level. Yeah, come on.
They came here to mess with you,
They
Kamaya.
did. This dude right here is like on your ass.
I don't feel him at all. This one over here, we're locked in. We're
Okay.
staring at each other.
Focus on that then. What do you get there?
I just have a visual of something that looks like a jellyfish. So it looks like clear and like iridescent in a sense, but it looks like it's kind of encapsulating something. And I have no idea what that means right now, y'all. That's just what I've been visualizing, I guess, with this particular ET.
I see that.
Interesting. I was getting like a blob-like being as well, like an aquatic, like a squid or something. But that being felt a little less, like less of a strong presence. My immediate perception was a really intense, kind of savage-like creature, but in a way that it's like showing me things that I feel are intense, but this being has a very nonchalant attitude towards those intense things. Like it's seen some very wild, savage things.
Getting as well.
I think we should take this moment to remind our audience that time and space are not linear concepts. So it's this is part of it's intention that enables telepathic communication. So it's very possible for Shantae to be abroad at the same time as being able to, in real time, participate in this ET boardroom meeting. So just a reminder to everybody that time and space are nonlinear concepts, and yeah, just keep that in mind.
Good luck.
You know, I had an image, or not an image, but a communication before the board meeting, because I was interested to know what they were going to talk about. And what they said was, you need to know more species. We're coming in with species. And one was going to be a form of reptilian, in fact. And I said, oh, that's a great idea, but not today, not today. Don't rush anything. Like, we'll do that in the future. We'll get that ready.
No, we got squid guys.
And then they just sort of blinked off. And when I started the meeting off, they didn't want to talk to me. It was like it was dead. They were waiting for, because they knew that probably I was going to edit that out, because I said not today. So I shut up, and sure enough, that's what you guys are talking about. And I can see clearly, this is the multi-species day.
And these are two different types of beings.
Two completely different beings. And one is arguably reptilian. And that's when I was communicating. See, yeah, but they're not ready for that. But there are good reptilians and bad reptilians. Not every reptilian in the whole galaxy. So when you were seeing these scales, and what you were thinking was like
Metal.
wounds and stuff like that.
Like metal.
Metal things. Yeah, they're not he's not the classic reptilian that we deal with when we deal with the so-called bad ETs. But there's a genetic type that still is reptilian, or something related to that, different. But this is the species day. It's very interesting, and it's interesting for me that they did not want me to talk about it, probably because they knew they didn't want me to bias the conversation, and because they knew I'd edit it out. And then we really relied on you guys to sort of talk about introductory stuff, but again, we relied on Kamaya to sort of be blunt about it. And Kamaya, you really shifted the whole conversation to what it was supposed to be. Interesting.
There is.
It was me, but go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, I'll say it feels like these beings showing up in this intense way is not, it doesn't feel like it's in a way to incite fear, like just because it's intense, at least from a typical human perspective. It feels like more of a, maybe an encouragement to unlock more intense parts of ourselves, like a more wild form of our intuition, or a more wild form of some sort of perception, like something to unlock in terms of intensity, what we think we can handle viewing and perceiving and sensing. That's what it feels.
That's very possible. It also, I mean, just the very general nature of the first message that we were picking up on, it was a message of that included a lot of visuals of what really is just violence in a very macro scale on the planet, and quite necessary violence from their perspective. But that energy of violence could definitely have had, I guess, subconscious ripples in both of our interpretation of not just their appearance, but our interpretation of their the lessons of the message, because that clearly did sort of echo across these understandings of this very harsh energy, but a very palpable, energized excitement that paralleled it. So anyway, yeah, I mean, you were going to say some stuff.
No. This is good. No, because this is very, and I know we've been covering this topic a little bit, but it's just really getting to the nitty gritty of this build and destroy aspect. You know, you really cannot build on top of another building. You have to, it has to crumble and fall. And a lot of people look at that as a thing that is well, it is scary, but a thing that is bad and negative, like, oh, the demolition. But demolition is good, because we have to be able to build something new. And I keep getting this new world order, but I see a very grimy space that was happening. I saw different tiers. I started to see a tier level, something that looked like gridlocks, like where things started to become separate. I could not tell if it was by class, like what is that called? Like
a
high
caste
class,
system?
high class, middle class,
Hierarchy.
Yeah, thank you.
Like a hierarchy.
I couldn't tell if it was like by like money class or like credit class. Views on Instagram, TikTok. I don't know what it was about, but it was definitely class tiered. And then I saw like this undercity, this very grimy, very poor looking place happening. And so there's going to be some places that demolish so much that they lose themselves. But then I also saw like these things that were very like built within the community. And so it was a lot of different tiers within the same places, like not necessarily a third world country looks this way and America looks this way, but like within the same places, even as simple as just the United States, how there are tiers in a border within the same cities even that are separating. There's a lot of separation that's about to happen, but then I see a moment, a place where they have to, or we have to, band together eventually to break these borders. And so I just saw a duality in these things with the tiers. I kept seeing like tier level communities, and some things that made me very nervous. I wrote down like arcane, like how they have that this grunge type undercity, and then this very pretty over type of place, very dirty and very money oriented, but the money doesn't feel like paper. So the currency, I should say, the currency doesn't feel like our paper or our dollar amount. The currency feels like something different than the dollar amount.
It's really important when you're saying these types of things, because just as much as everyone's watching the world seemingly come apart at the seams with all of the destruction that is really emphasized in the mainstream, not just geopolitical warfare, there's, a lot of civil unrest from, immigration-related matters or forced immigration-related matters, however you want to define it. But the point is, there's real evidence for this other system of construction that's being built that is right in line with everything you just said, Yeme. I mean, the amount of legislation that's been going through just recently with the Genius Act is just one example of many that's making it so that we're going to have this whole new cryptocurrency money system in the United States. This is taking a step to take what you've just described telepathically and just pairing it to real world events that everyone here can just look up on their own. There is a serious nation-building level effort to construct an entirely different world on top of the ashes of the world that we're watching burn at this exact moment. And I'm very, very excited to see how that is going to turn out, because this destruction that they're talking about, I don't think that we can even comprehend the scope of what that new civilization is going to be, because I think it's going to be really big. And from their perspective, the energy that I'm getting as I'm saying this telepathically is that there's just going to be this whole space avenue of that's just going to open up territory, and that territory, that possibility for creation, where it comes to just the industrial might of our civilizations or just the dreams of our individual people and what they're going to be able to engage in. I mean, it's going to be bigger than our wildest sci-fi movies, I think. I mean, I think we're in for a really bright tomorrow, but it makes a real interesting spin on all the death and destruction that we see right now. And to be quite honest, I would challenge everybody to try to be on the lookout for opportunities to engage in construction when others might see opportunities to engage in destruction. So anyway, I'll end it right there.
No, you're there. You're riding the wave. Okay, it's like you opened my vocal box and you spoke. That was good stuff.
Appreciate it.
And I find it funny, like when you say these things, like I am the most under the rock type of person you will ever meet. I know nothing about what's going on in the world except for via Farsight. I find out after I've done a session. I'm like, oh snap, we have a presidency running. Okay, like I really don't watch the news. I don't watch TV, and I read fantasy books. So like when he says like these things that are like coinciding with what I'm receiving telepathically, much like Intisam, I usually am like, yeah, this is probably some buffoonery here, but I'm say it, and then he'll go, well, actually, there's something happening here. And I think that's wonderful. Like with someone like me, like I'm very under the rock. I do not do research on the things happening in the world until I leave a board meeting usually, and then I'm like, what was that? What is he talking about? Like, I really don't know. You said something, and I was like, what is that? I got to remember later. But I just wanted you guys to know that, like, even with that tag team and that telepathy, in what I'm saying versus what he's showing that you can actually go and look up, I have no clue what half of those words even meant because I've never even heard of it because I don't watch TV. And so I just find this very fascinating. And I find it very fascinating that they're not talking to Courtney today.
Yeah, that was interesting. I just did a recording with Yeme for her Deep News, and it was on it was on something dealing with one of the international scenes that's going on now. I'm not sure if everyone's recorded yet. I think everyone has. Yeah, I was. She has not. So, okay, so I'm not going to tell what it was. But she knew nothing about the topic, even after I told her what the target was at the end of the target reveal. The session was absolutely stellar. It was like it was made for military intelligence and that somebody was in the location and described absolutely everything. And I told her, this is like, I was afraid we were going to lose her because the Pentagon was going to call her in the next 5 minutes and take her to Washington to work there in the intelligence and DIA. But it was just so incredibly good. But she knew nothing. Not only did she do the thing totally blind, but after I told her about it, she knew nothing about it. Really? Is that what's going on?
I was traumatized. I was like, I'm sorry, I need you to say this one more time. Like after all the cameras cut off, I was like, I don't understand what you just told me.
Yeah, it was. If you are enjoying the content of this video, please consider subscribing to our streaming service, FarsightPrime.com, where you will find all Farsight mystery projects, where we use remote viewing to investigate nearly every major mystery imaginable, including the reality of the very complicated extraterrestrial presence here on Earth, the solar system, and the galaxy, in addition to archaeological, religious, to deeply political mysteries of every type, and much, much more. Also consider studying Farsight's content by downloading the transcripts of Farsight Mysteries that you can find in The Vault on our regular website, farsight.org, and then uploading those transcripts to your favorite AI so that you can talk with your AI about our work at Farsight, asking your AI the deepest questions, all from the comfort of your own home or office. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight, and remember to click on the notifications bell so that you can be notified of our new releases on YouTube, which includes our live stream events. And finally, please sign up for our free email newsletter that you can find on our website, farsight.org. We never send out spam, and we use our newsletter to announce all of our major offerings, including our live stream events, our deep news investigations, our ET communications, our ongoing investigations into more of the mysteries that are routinely ignored by the mainstream, and our upcoming new projects. After you watch what we bring to the table on FarsightPrime.com, you will never again look at the mainstream media, political leaders, or orthodox science or religion the same. You will find the checklist of things to do to keep you connected to our work at Farsight in the description below. It was interesting. Okay. Intisam, I cut you off a couple times.
No, you didn't actually.
I didn't?
You didn't. But I'm going to go back to what I was originally picking up, which was tying into like the feeling that both of these species are like refugees of sorts, because they were sending me telepathic images very similar to what you were talking about, like destruction and the ground cracking up and like, you know, energetic weapons and stuff like that. And that was tied to the emotion I was picking up. But that's interesting because as we're talking about all the wars, all the destructions and tumult that we're facing right now, it's also running in parallel with disclosure and us receiving disclosure. So that what would that look like? Would that produce like human refugees that would be going into space, or would we be receiving refugees from space? Because this energy, it is coupled. Not only is Earth going through this catastrophic moment, but there's also a bunch of other places outside of Earth that are receiving the same kind of energy and unrest and genocide and whatever, because I am picking up strong energy of that sort from these two beings. Is that when we have wars, you have displacement. So like right now, immigration issues, these immigrants, they are coming from places that have been destabilized. So, and then they're received badly in the places that are doing the destabilization a lot of the times. But what is that going to look like for us, for the Earth, the universal immigration? Because we already have such a tough time accepting differences, skin color, tribalism, religion. So when you couple that with, this is a completely different species and they don't even speak our language, and that is going to be very interesting, and that these two very, very big moments are running in parallel, and we might receive both at the same time, disclosure coming at the same time that we're bombing each other.
That's fascinating. This does fit. They come from places where they've experienced Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an appropriate time. Actually, this is very interesting. They wouldn't show up as our visitors unless this was the moment where they wanted us to start thinking about that. So I guess one of the messages is that they want us to know that they have gone through this as well. So what we are about to go through has already started going through, but we are going to all go through much bigger in the coming months, is something that they have experienced. So they do not want us to think that, they're up there happy in the ships and they're watching us go through this torture. They want us to know that they have been there, done that, and freedom is supposed to be something that they fought for, just like they want us to fight for it.
I think that's a good thing to point out. To be honest, the palpability of how in our face that telepathic experiences can be to give us insight on major geopolitical cataclysms that seem to be just popping up everywhere is it shouldn't be understated. I mean, we're sort of giving an example of a major a group telepathic experience here with these ET boardroom meetings. But just to mention a story, and then I wanted to ask Shantae a question. Just to mention a story, about a while ago, over a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was in Thailand and I saw I was waking up in the middle of the night, and in the darkness of my bedroom, I saw a tall, large-headed, gray-looking being, and he told me, "Enjoy Thailand while you can right now, because you won't be able to come back for a long time." And then I sort of just remembered the experience because it was very vivid. And then when I came back to the United States, I started to plan another trip to go back to Thailand, and then they started a war with Cambodia. And well, I don't want to say they started it, but it's a war started, and there's two sort of competing narratives around there, and they the energy is sort of, this is just one of those popcorn kernels that we're talking about. There's more and more of this destructive energy just sort of popping off in different parts of the world. I'm not saying anything bad is going to happen in more of the touristy areas of Thailand, but I just wanted to point out that I sort of see that as a very prophetic experience, to where I was told about something that would have maybe influenced my travel plans in the future by through an experience across the psychic internet, which the psychic internet, through these telepathic experiences, it really goes hand in hand with anything and everything that you can do in the digital internet, but you just have to go through the effort of practicing it. So I really challenge everyone to just try to engage in constant telepathy as long as possible, as much as you can. Shantae, your conscious mind is in a different place because you're in Switzerland right now. So I was hoping, and I'm really burning up, guys. I'm sweating bullets right now. Shantae, I was hoping you could just sort of get a gauge on what Yeme was talking about and try to read in from your perspective. What do you see this new world to look like? Because I'm constantly getting the feeling from our ET visitors here that the focus isn't the destruction. The focus is this world that's going to happen after the destruction, that they're really, that's where their emotions are really excited about. So what is coming through from your perspective? Because we're all sitting here in America. You're in Switzerland, though. So what does that data look like after it filters through your conscious mind?
Love that question. Let's see. When Yeme was speaking about the tears, I guess it's an interesting thing. What came to me was we have this system that's currently crumbling, and still we're following those who created that system. And I guess even just to touch on, like how you mentioned poverty in some of these tiers, as I'm traveling, even so, like some of the nicest places, there's still poverty, there's still this imbalance, there's still like, oh, things are perfect if I have the resources, and if you don't have the resources, then there's nothing. That's just too bad. So I think with these beings that are visiting us today, while they show us this destruction and violence, I do think that it's more so saying we continue to follow the path of this current system, even as we accept that it's crumbling. The violence doesn't have to be inevitable, but if we stay with this system, that's the case. It feels like we're kind of just at the cusp of where, hey, we can still turn things around in how we deal with this in a non-violent way, but we're inching closer and closer to where it's happening in so many different places that's going to be harder to avoid. But also, as we discussed with the refugees, the potential Earth refugees, or people on Earth being refugees to other planets, what I feel, even from these beings that have experienced the chaos from their planets, is yes, to be an example of what we don't want to continue here on Earth, but it also feels like it's out of curiosity. They're literally looking for themselves of how we've messed things up for ourselves here on Earth. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little all over the place. It's very rapid. When Yemi was talking about the tears, I was getting like a lot of different rapid perceptions. I don't know if that answered your question, Aziz. But even being here in Switzerland is a beautiful place, the mountains and all. Still, I hear, you share with people you're an American and immediately they hit you with all the news still. So, I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question.
It was great. It's good. Anyway, Dad, you were saying?
We are in need of a grounding moment again.
A grounding moment.
Okay. So I personally, for once, am not picking up on like any type of bad energy. I feel really calm right now. I feel comfortable with these particular beings, and I'm catching a lot of like motherly love in a sense that, they're here to kind of encourage and watch and not necessarily like protect, but be there while things are happening. And I have a sense or a feeling of like hope and kind of just like, you know, like, yeah, all this stuff may be going on, but it's not necessarily like detrimental to us, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, not saying I feel protected, but I feel kind of like they're looking out for us. They're not here to be malevolent. Is that the word?
Malevolent.
Malevolent? Something like that. They're not here to be that or project those types of feelings onto us. So, yeah.
That's great. I think this is definitely not a doom and gloom session. This is definitely a good energy thing. Yes, Yemi.
No, I'm listening.
Oh no, I'm done. That's
It's
everything.
interesting that the moment where we talk about hope is the moment when we have two visitors of completely different species who have gone through hell. Talk about contrast. Miyame's crying now.
I think it's the thing that they. It's kind of like you could wake up any day and decide to do things completely different, no matter what your current circumstances. You could change something, and I feel like that's the case with these beings. At least what they're trying to share is that, like, even if they've seen destruction, you know that that destruction didn't have to happen, and they know that that doesn't have to happen here. So, yeah, there's nothing that's has to keep you locked in all of your choices and all of your decisions. You could completely change at least one thing.
Actually, a great reason to meditate is because the modern term is mindfulness training now, if you want to use the academic terminology. But I mean, being mindful, being aware of your own thoughts, your own emotions, and recognizing the truth of the matter that they are a function of body, and you are an Isbe, an immortal spiritual being who is simply aware of those thoughts and those emotions. The more you lock yourself into the present moment and you're seeing those things, the less control thoughts and emotions have over you, and then you can sort of catch yourself when you get into those autopilot stage of old habits and do exactly what you're saying is, you know, you can do something different. And
I'm hoping Yemi can say what she's going through a lot of stuff right now. Are you able to talk?
Yes. I'm just trying to translate it and all. I was seeing, excuse me, they were showing me like a lot of visuals of their planet, and you know, we weren't very far off with what you said about the refugees, and they were showing me their planets and what they've had to rebuild and how they had to move through certain things, and it was like it was almost as though like they shot it through me, so I felt it in my body, and I just saw the visuals of what they both have seen across the galaxies, the universes, whatever you want to call it, and what they are wanting. And Kamaya is extremely right about hope. I had written down, you know, they said, I wanted to show you, contrary as to what you may think or believe, that we have feelings, that we may process them differently than you all do, but we do feel. And I'm hoping that this helps your kind to adapt when we come and when you have to move as well, because we all will have to shift. They don't know when or how, but they know a great shift is coming to where there's going to be a big merging. It may be in our lifetime and it may not be, but it's coming. And with them, time doesn't exist the same way. They said that I'm hoping that this shows you that we are a people too. We may be alien or extraterrestrial to you, but that's just because we are not of your land. You are alien and extraterrestrial to us on our land. It just means not of this land. It doesn't mean we are monsters. It doesn't mean that we are here to harm you. We are a people just like you. You all are different to us, just as we are different to you. And we want to show you that we are one and the same. They said that they want to, they know that it's going to be a fight. And a lot of the times people are made to be the villain because of other people's fears and beliefs. When they may not be the villain, the people who are fearful sometimes become the villain. So we can be their villains just as much as we may think, we as a human species may think that these other worldly beings are our villains, that they're coming to take over. When we have to go to their planet, or when we visit their planet for experiments or whatever it may be, when we break down their soil to put down a base, when we break down where they're from, they're not attacking us. And if they do, now they're bad. Now they're getting captured. Now they're getting shot. Now their people are being killed because of our selfishness. And they're not here to fuss at us about this, but they wanted to show you, they wanted to show us that, hey, we are afraid too. We're afraid of meeting you. We're afraid that you'll take one look at us and that you'll want to kill us. Just as we know, just as they know that we are afraid that they'll take one, that they'll take one look at us and want to kill our kind. They know that there's a duality in this space, and they wanted to let you know that they have feelings too. Their circle of life may look different than ours, and it may seem corrupted, or it may seem wrong to the human species, but that's how they've lived before they were here. They're not here to, I hear vegetarianism, and I guess that was the way I was able to translate what they said. Was there are communities and people who eat a certain way, or who may feel that this is what they need to survive. And while there are species, not all species eat humans, but they have these that do these things. We torture animals, and we torture our food before we eat it too. They said we are one and the same, but everyone has a way to shift and change. And if we can all shift and change our belief system into a space of unity, then we can all look different. I think it was Shantae that said that they have to be, you don't have to wake up, you can wake up and choose to be different. Like Aziz, I don't want to butcher it, but you can wake up and choose to be different. You can wake up and choose to exist in a certain way. You can wake up and choose to not be violent. You can wake up and choose to not kill. You can wake up and choose to build with your destruction. I teach my son that fire is a powerful weapon to wield, because fire can burn, but fire can also melt. It can mold. It can form. It can create. And we're afraid of these things. We're afraid of the things that seem like destruction. But the things that seem like destruction are also here to help you build. We have our weapons, or our tools, or our things that can also help us build. We have welding. We have these abilities that are physical, that we can use with our hands in this world, that we can use to have a proper demolition. If we all come together as one piece, we can have a proper demolition, and then come together to rebuild what it is that we need to survive in this planet. And this may be in this lifetime, it may be next year, it may be next week, it may be decades or an era from now. I don't know when, and neither do they, because they say our time is different here. But but it's going to happen. And if we can prepare and teach and prepare our people and teach our people to accept these new differences, then what seems like destruction may not hurt us that bad. But we can't keep fighting each other, and we can't keep killing each other in this way. You know, there is a circle of life. There is going to be death. There is going to be malicious people. There has to be a balance. Not everyone is going to be good, but if the majority of us can come together and really build as we take down, then things will look different when we come. The we is them. When they come, they said things will look different when they come. You know, last night, I don't usually visibly see ships, but I saw them surrounding my house. There were some good and there were some not good. You know, there were some that put me in protective mode. But then I also realized that there were some out there also fighting for my home and my son. And I went through that last night before I came here. And I only got that clarity from being in here because they were talking to me about it. And so, you know, that's what they want to say. They are hopeful, and they just want you to know that, hey, they're not mindless and feel emotionless creatures that are here to storm the planet. That's not why they're here.
It's very interesting in these ET board meetings that we've had month after month after month. Each topic and each set of guests that we've had has been carefully orchestrated to bring us along with sort of an educational journey. Like we had the military people come in at one time. We had the 2 AI ETs come in another time. And right before the real blankety blank hits the fan here on Earth, we have 2 war victims. We have people who not necessarily they're not refugees, war victims. They work. You guys work on their they work there on their ships, but they have experienced trauma, and their whole species have experienced trauma, and they wanted us. So now is the time for them to tell us about that. And it's a very interesting. You guys have been very careful at educating us with these ET board meetings, one after the next after the next. Anyway, so I guess we're getting sort of wrapping it up. So the last I want Kamaya to give us a final grounding moment, but before that, Intisam had something to say.
Well, it does appear that they are wearing their scars very proudly and beautifully. And, you know, a lot of the times people that who've been through the worst, they are the kindest people. And hopefully that'll be the outcome for us as well. And I was just getting that, you know, their scars, the way they do wear them is like a symbol of strength. A symbol like, okay, I've been through this and I've come out on the other side. And, you know, this is like the crown that I wear to show that I'm a survivor. And I'm also getting that they're joining us here. And I was getting a parallel of like you know, the Jim Crow era when, you know, African Americans were being enslaved and stuff like that. But at the same time, there was also poor white people, right? And they're down there in the dumps as well. But in their mind, they still think they're better than you know, the slaves of the time. But I'm getting this because we are all the same. We're all down in the dumps, and there is no one who's better at this point. It's just a matter of what Aziz calls the galactic corporations. They don't want us to look up. They keep us fighting, so we don't look up and we don't see that, oh, you know, there are forces that have a vested interest in keeping people fighting and keeping people attacking each other and thinking that, oh, you know, one group is better than the other or one group is more superior. Because even the people who are like pressing the buttons of war, they're all controlled at the end of the day. I mean, that's what our data shows, is that, you know, they're all manipulated by some ET group or whatever. So at the end of the day, we're all, what do you call it, the grunges of war. We're all in the
In the trenches.
I was about to say in the tunnels. Yes, we're all in the trenches together. And it's some common person in Ukraine pushing the button that sends off the missile, as it is, the person in Russia and vice versa, Iran, Israel, all that. They're all just normal people taking instructions from a higher up person, and that higher up person is taking instruction from a higher up person. So all I'm trying to say is I think they're also coming to teach us to look up, instead of looking side to side and pointing fingers at this person is this is my enemy, that person's just trying to live their life. But there is somebody at the very top who has been pushing these buttons for a very, very long time, and that's what we need to focus on.
Before we shift to Kamaya for a grounding moment, Shantae, would you like to say something?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I just think with that, so when we mention the struggle, I guess, or going back to the refugee, I obviously don't know what that exact experience is like, but to struggle in general, or an intense struggle, I can imagine it will come to a point where you realize that because that situation doesn't make sense, it doesn't have to happen, but kindness, still treating others with kindness, that you encounter with kindness, is a way to try to make things make sense again. So that's the only thing you can do, is what it feels like from these beings, with Kamaya's message of hope. That's, you still have to behave that way and continue to put that out so it's not lost, I guess. That's it.
Grounding moment for us? We're in need.
I do, okay? I'm going to keep it short and sweet like I always do. In the moments where they want us to live in fear, choose to live in hope, okay? We see a lot of things that are going on that make us scared, that make us worried about our futures, about the people around us that we care about, and a lot of fear-mongering going on. And I choose to live on the side of hope. I choose to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, yep, that's it.
Love it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and
sir.
actually no one could tell us that better than people who have gone through hell. Thank you, too, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody else, for watching.
All right, everybody, we're wrapping up now, okay?
Oh my God.
Sounds good.
Shantae, thank you from Switzerland, the land of neutrality.